In this lesson, we'll learn the basics of how Illustrator constructs an object. Okay, so we know that Illustrator is an object-based vector drawing program, and it uses a series of mathematical equations to create objects, to place objects, and to move objects around our document window. Now, let's go ahead and drill down a little deeper into that and talk about a vector object. Now, really, vector objects are a series of mathematically defined either straight or curved lines. Now I want to go ahead and show you a sort of a visual representation of that. Now we've got a lot of vector artwork here on our screens that we've been working with in previous lessons, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in really tightly on this logo right here, and I'm going to go ahead and switch into what's known as outline mode. Outline mode is going to allow you to see basically the mathematically defined curved and straight lines that make up this logo. Now these lines are often referred to as paths. So let me go ahead and switch into outline mode for you, and you can find that under your view drop down menu, and it's the very first option here, outline, and the keyboard shortcut for that, as you can see, is Control Y. I actually use outline mode quite a bit when I'm working with rather advanced vector objects. It really helps you isolate certain paths and kind of see what's going on when colors and other modifying attributes can sort of get in the way. So let me go ahead and switch into that with a Control Y, and I'm going to zoom in nice and tight here on this vector logo, and you can see that there's a lot of information here. Basically what it looks like is that this logo is being displayed in wireframe mode, but you know, if I go ahead and turn on my smart guides here, I'll do that with a Control U, and I'll go ahead and start mousing over some of the different areas here. Now if I mouse over that, you can see it gets highlighted, and right now what I'm mousing over, according to the little green label, is a path. Now if I follow this path around, eventually I'm going to hit what's known as an anchor point, and we're actually going to talk about anchor points in just a moment here. There's one right there. But I just wanted to give you an example of what all of these straight and curved lines look like that make up this vector graphic. So let me just jump back out of outline mode with a Control Y, and we're going to zoom back out here. Now down here below the logo, I've actually got several paths already drawn, and they're actually not visible to you right now. You can't see them. Let me go ahead and select them here, and that'll help you to see those. Now, a path is essentially an invisible framework of an object. Invisible framework, invisible skeleton, or the invisible outline of an object. So we have a series of paths here, and I'm going to go ahead and assign a stroke to those so you can see those. And let me just do that here. Okay, so I mentioned here that essentially paths are either straight or they're curved, and let's go ahead and grab this straight path right here, and I'm actually going to get rid of the stroke on that so we can just look at the path. And I want you to notice here that this path actually is connecting two little dots here at either end. These are anchor points. Now a path is going to begin with an anchor point, and it's going to end with an anchor point, and an anchor point is going to determine changes in direction for a path. Now as you can see, there's no changes in direction for this path. It's perfectly straight, so there's really nothing going on with the anchor points, but we still need those to begin and end our path. Now if I come down here and let me just select this curved path right here and get rid of the stroke that's on that, you can see that this path consists of three anchor points. We have one on the left side, one in the center here, and then we have one on the far right side. Now, being that there are three anchor points here, this is a good opportunity to share with you that this path actually consists of what's known as two path segments. A path segment is the area between two anchor points. So we're going to have one path segment right here, and we're going to have another path segment right here. Okay, so I mentioned that anchor points actually determine changes in direction for a path, and that's exactly what these three anchor points are doing. Let me go ahead and just elaborate on that just a little bit. I'll move down here, and essentially we have two different types of anchor points, and we've got the first one displayed here on the left. Let me just zoom in on these two paths right here. Now I'm going to grab this one right here, and let's get rid of that stroke so we can just see the path. Now this anchor point right here is what's known as a corner point. A corner point is going to connect straight line segments like you see here, or a corner point can actually connect curved line segments as well. And we'll look at that down here in just a moment. For example, these corner points here. Now this next corner point anchor point I want to show to you is actually called a smooth anchor point. Now this anchor point is going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to select it here and get rid of that stroke for you. And let's look at this anchor point here in the middle. This anchor point is a smooth anchor point. And we can see here that it looks like there is sort of a line that's drawn right through the center of it, and there is two little dots on either side of this line. Now, this smooth anchor point is determining the curve that is applied to this path, and it's doing that with these little handles that grow out of that anchor point. These handles are often referred to as Bezier handles. Now, some people will call those direction points and direction lines. A lot of people just refer to them as Bezier handles, and these handles actually determine the curve of this path. So, being that these handles grow out perfectly vertically from this anchor point, we're going to have a nice clean curve on both of these sides. Now if I were to grab one of these handles and start to twist this anchor point around, you're going to see here the path is going to adjust accordingly here. Just like so. Not only can I rotate those handles around, I can also stretch those out and make them longer. And you can see here how that path is growing based on the changes I make to this Bezier handle. Now because this path consists of two curved segments, you can also see here that the anchor points at the beginning and end of the path are also controlling the curve of the line segment between the anchor points it's next to. So it has a handle that grows out as well, and we can also transform those. So, I'm not going to get too much into drawing curved paths at this point. I just want to show you the difference between a corner anchor point and a smooth anchor point and how those affect a path. So let's come down here and take a look at these paths here. I'm going to come in and select this path, get rid of the stroke on that, and you can see here that this path is a series of straight line segments that is connected by corner points right in there. So there's several anchor points on this path and several path segments. Now coming over and taking a look at this one, we have several curved paths here. Now if I go ahead and get rid of the stroke on this path, you can see here that because we have a change in direction here, and our path is not curving into another path directly, we have corner points here connecting these path segments. So a smooth anchor point would actually have a handle growing out of either side of it, opposite of each other. These anchor points only have handles growing out in one direction. So these are also considered corner points. Now over here, if we take a look at this path, again we've got a series of anchor points connecting path segments, and we have both curved path segments and we have a straight path segment in the center. So again, looking here at this anchor point and this anchor point, we're connecting a mixture of curved path segments and straight path segments. So again, another corner point. So our smooth anchor points are only going to connect curved path segments, and they're going to have these Bezier handles that grow out of either side of them. Okay, so let me go ahead and scroll down here, and right here what I have is an example for you of three closed paths. Now these three closed paths have what's known as an appearance attribute applied to them. Now we're going to get into appearance attributes in just a little bit, but just know for right now that there's three types of appearance attributes that we can apply to a path. Now we can apply a stroke to a path, which is going to outline that path just like this. We can apply a fill to that path, which is going to fill the inside of that closed path with, in this case, this green color. Or we can apply an effect to a path, like we've got right here. Now, a lot of times an effect is going to be dependent on another appearance attribute being applied, in this case, an orange fill. But what I really want to show you at this point is that there is a stacking order that comes with drawing objects into Illustrator. Probably the easiest way to understand this is to picture each of these as paper objects sitting on maybe a table. Now, if we were to place one of these objects down first, maybe it's going to be this green rectangle. And then we come in and place in this ellipse on top of that. You can see here that Illustrator is going to demonstrate that stacking order for us by showing us this black stroked ellipse on top of this green rectangle. So there's actually a stacking order here. Now if we were to bring in another object, being that maybe it's this triangle with this scribble effect on it, and we drop it in on top of these two objects last, you can see that it's going to cover both of these two objects. So there's a stacking order with this object being the closest to us, the ellipse being immediately behind it, and the green rectangle being the last object in the three in the stacking order. Now we can actually change this stacking order around really simple. Just come up to your object drop-down menu and choose the arrange option right here. And there's four key options here. We have bring to front, we have bring forward, we have send backwards, and then we have send to back. So if we think about each one of these, let's think about what we want to do with this triangle. If we wanted to move that backwards, we have two options. We could move that all the way to the back, or we could use that send backwards option. Now there's also keyboard shortcuts next to those. Let me go ahead and select that object again. There's keyboard shortcuts that are next to these arrange options that I would probably recommend you go ahead and commit these to memory, because these are going to be really helpful in changing the stacking order of objects on your artboard. So let's go ahead and send this backward one step. You can see that in doing that, it's going to move it immediately behind the object that was next in the stacking order, which in this case was the ellipse. Now, if we were to move that backwards one more step, you're going to see that that moves the triangle behind both the ellipse and the rectangle. Now we could bring that all the way back to the front just by coming over here and choosing the bring to front option right here. So Illustrator has an inherent stacking order for the objects that we create, and you need to be aware of this. It's going to play a key role in the way you draw vector objects inside Illustrator. Alright, so in this lesson we have learned the basics of how Illustrator constructs its objects. In the next lesson we're going to continue on and talk about selecting objects in Illustrator.